The Japanese soldier went into battle brainwashed, believing his rifle was loaded with divine will. But in the heat of the slaughter, the truth emerged. He held not a sacred artifact, but technological junk destined for the scrap heap of history. While the enemy forged victory with logic, Japan fed its suicide squads tales of spirit, handing them iron that failed at the most fatal moment. Welcome to the world of weaponry madness, where fanaticism devoured engineering calculations. The Japanese military machine built an illusion of power, hiding the utter impotence of its industry behind lacquered stocks. Instead of reliable automatics, fickle mechanisms. Instead of ergonomics, absurd deformity. Hirohito's generals demanded that guns be spiritual, turning factories into souvenir workshops for kamikazes. While Americans showered the front with lead, the Japanese polished their bolts to a mirror shine, hoping for a miracle. It was a war of technology against medieval insanity, where the outcome was clear while still on the drawing board. Behind this pathos lay a dirty truth. Japanese weapons were created not for victory, but for spectacular suicide. And if you think this is rock bottom, wait until we deconstruct the curse of the chrysanthemum, a ritual for which a soldier could be lined up against a wall for a simple scratch on metal. You could literally lose your head if you dared to grind the emblem off your rifle's receiver, even if that bolt was jammed tight. Every barrel boasted a 16-petaled chrysanthemum, the emperor's personal seal. The Japanese command created a mad reality. The soldier is a consumable, but the engraving on his rifle is a sanctuary, desecration of which was punishable by death. The cult of the imperial seal turned the war into a paranoid circus. Soldiers were required to pray to their weapons while their positions were being incinerated by flamethrowers. The regulations stated clearly, the Arisaka is not a tool, but quote 3. If a rifle was captured with an intact seal, it was considered a disgrace that could only be washed away with the blood of the soldier's entire family. In 1945, instead of defending, entire regiments frantically filed off seals under enemy fire. They feared not death, but that an American sergeant might touch the divine flower with dirty hands. It was a triumph of form over substance. An army of fanatics worshipped a drawing on metal while the metal itself rotted hopelessly in the jungles. But what happened when the sacred flower fell into enemy hands unharmed? A manhunt would begin, where the price was the family's honor. But the ultimate cynicism awaited those who tried to fight with this quote, _5, in narrow trenches. Are you ready to see the 2-meter monster from which the Japanese seriously hoped to shoot down planes? The Japanese created a rifle from which one could theoretically shoot down an enemy fighter. But in practice, it was difficult even to get out of a truck without hooking a comrade. The Arisaka Type 99 was a true 2-meter monster, cumbersome, archaic, and absolutely useless in cramped jungle conditions. This weapon became a symbol of Japanese stubbornness, an attempt to fight with World War I methods in an era of fleeting fire contacts. The design of the Type 99 is a monument to engineering insanity. Why does an infantry rifle need fold-out quote, _6, for an anti-aircraft sight? Generals seriously believed that a crowd of soldiers firing into the sky on command could stop an American flight wing. The result? Zero effectiveness and extra weight that the soldier dragged across miles of swamp. Add to that a recoil that dislocated the shoulders of inexperienced conscripts and a bolt that required immense strength with every reload. While US Marines showered the Japanese with semi-automatic Garands, the Japanese rifleman frantically yanked the lever of his quote, _7, hoping he wouldn't be spotted behind a cloud of gunpowder smoke. The Arisaka was durable, yes, but this durability became a death sentence. In a narrow pillbox with such a long stick, you became an easy target for the first enemy with a knife or pistol. But the most interesting part began when a soldier decided his ore was too clean. You'll be surprised to learn what deadly surprise awaited the poor soul who decided to disassemble an Arisaka, not by the book, or lubricate it with the wrong oil. However, that was nothing compared to the machine guns that literally required a diet of liquid grease to avoid turning into a pile of rusty scrap in the middle of a battle. Japanese gunsmiths created a fetish object instead of a combat unit, a machine gun that refused to get excited without a portion of liquid grease before every cycle. In the heat of the bloodbath on Guadalcanal, the Empire's machine gunner didn't watch his sector of fire. He frantically checked the oil level in the mechanism. This isn't a weapon, it's a temperamental gasoline generator that required maintenance right under heavy fire. The engineering dead end of the Type 96 and 99 models lay in the designer's total helplessness before physics. They couldn't make the casing exit the chamber smoothly, so they simply welded an oiler to the machine gun. Each cartridge, before being fired, performed a ritual ablution in oil. In the jungle, this solution turned into a sentence. The sticky sludge instantly sucked in sand, turning into an abrasive paste that ate through metal in minutes. The machine gunner worked in a cloud of stinking oil mist that flew directly into his eyes and gave away his position better than any searchlight. The Americans located Japanese nests by the specific smell of fried grease and the characteristic blue smoke, after which they simply smothered this oil plant with mortar fire. This lubricant became a sticky symbol of the technical rock bottom the Empire hit. But if the machine gun could at least theoretically hit a target, the personal weapons of Japanese commanders were created for something else. Are you ready to see a pistol that fired from a simple squeeze of the frame? The Namboo Type 14, a tool that made a cripple out of an officer faster than an enemy sniper. If you wanted to commit the most absurd suicide in the history of warfare, you didn't need to perform harakiri. You just had to put a loaded Namboo pistol in its holster. This elegant piece of steel possessed a unique superpower. It could shoot you through the hip, even if your finger was 10 centimeters away from the trigger. Japanese officers bought this misunderstanding with their hard-earned yen, effectively signing their own death warrants long before meeting the enemy. The technical disgrace of the Namboo Type 14 is a benchmark of how not to design weapons. Due to a monstrous design flaw, the pistol's sear, the part holding the firing pin, was located on the outside of the frame. It was enough to simply squeeze the pistol hard or hit the holster awkwardly for a shot to occur. American Marines who found these trophies quickly realized, using this quote, _13__ as intended meant playing Russian roulette with a full cylinder. Add to this a weak spring that died after a couple of weeks in the dampness, and an 8mm caliber whose cartridge had the stopping power of a spit. An Imperial officer looked striking with this quote, _14__ on his belt. But in reality, he carried a temperamental toy that jammed from humid air and sought to put a bullet in its owner's leg while he tried to get into a truck. The Namboo became the living embodiment of the phrase "design kills." But while officers risked losing their kneecaps to their pistols, ordinary soldiers were forced to carry even stranger artifacts. Have you ever seen a knife welded to a machine gun? This isn't a frame from a crazy anime, but a harsh survival tactic pushed to total absurdity in the jungles of Oceania. A crazed fanatic rushes at you with a 10-meter contraption weighing 10 kilograms, with a gleaming knife welded to the end. This isn't a circus or a low-budget horror movie, it's the official doctrine of the Imperial Army. The Japanese managed to attach a bayonet to a light machine gun, turning a firing point into a ridiculous steel pike. When other nations ran out of ammo, they changed positions. When a Japanese soldier ran out of ammo, he went into a bayonet charge with a machine gun at the ready, hoping to stab the enemy with the weight of his own insanity. The cult of cold steel in Japan swallowed the last remnants of logic. While the rest of the world moved toward fire suppression tactics, generals in Tokyo hallucinated about the spirit of the blade. Attaching a bayonet to a rifle is normal, attaching it to a submachine gun is strange, but hanging it on the heavy Type 96 is a diagnosis. The poor machine gunner was expected not only to carry ammunition and a fickle butter churn, but also to engage in hand-to-hand combat, wielding the massive barrel like a club. The command seriously believed that the sight of a machine gun bayonet would paralyze Americans with terror. In reality, US Marines simply shot these samurais from a safe distance, not understanding why the enemy was trying to play medieval knight with a piece of scrap metal in his hands. It was the peak of tactical deadlock, an attempt to compensate for ammunition shortages and poor automatic reliability with a bare steel blade. Was there even a single chance of success in this madness? History knows of not one case where a machine gun bayonet decided the outcome of a battle, but it became a monument to fanaticism that displaced the survival instinct. However, the true shame awaited Japan, where they tried to catch up with the West in rate of fire. Are you ready to see a submachine gun that was so good that its production run was smaller than that of souvenir postcards? Japanese generals despised submachine guns for decades, calling them weapons for cowards who fear a stray aimed shot. But when they began being mowed down in the jungles by bursts from American Thompsons, their arrogance evaporated instantly. There was only one problem. By the time Japan finally deigned to release its Type 100, the war was already lost, and the submachine gun itself turned out to be just as crooked and ill-timed as the Empire's entire strategy. The Type 100 is a monument to being late. While the USSR stamped out millions of PPSHs and Germany produced MP-40s, the Japanese manufactured a pathetic 30,000 units. This was a drop in the ocean for a multi-million-man army. But even here, they managed to quote 21. Due to a maniacal passion for bayonet charges, they attached a knife even to this compact weapon. The design was a masterpiece of ergonomic hell. The magazine stuck out from the side, godlessly off-balancing the gun to the left, which turned firing into an attempt to hold on to a frantic piglet. Accuracy? Forget it. Reliability? In humid conditions, the Type 100's mechanisms surrendered faster than the island garrisons. The average soldier only saw this weapon on propaganda posters, while at the front, he had to fight off the enemy's automatic fire with that same quote, 22 the Arisaka. The Type 100 became an admission of Japan's technical bankruptcy. They tried to jump onto the last carriage of the automatic weapons train, only to find they had no steel, no resources, and no time. But the real nightmare began later, when due to raw material shortages, divine weapons began to be fashioned literally from trash. Are you ready to see rifles that were more dangerous to the shooter than to the target? The Japanese command gave birth to tactical schizophrenia. They mounted sniper scopes on light machine guns. Why? To see the enemy's terrified eyes more clearly a second before being obliterated by a mortar. It was an attempt to cross a hedgehog with a snake, the rate of fire of an automatic and the precision of a high-accuracy weapon. In reality, this turned the machine gunner into the perfect target, pinned to a single spot. Using optics on the Type 96 and 99 is a sign of a total misunderstanding of modern warfare. A machine gun is designed to shower a sector with lead, pinning the enemy to the ground, not to pick out a button on a uniform. Japanese machine gunners, blinded by the narrow field of vision of the scope, lost control of the situation. While they tried to play sniper, American flanking groups moved in and doused the pillboxes with flamethrowers. Moreover, a scope on a machine gun means extra seconds for mounting and adjustment that simply don't exist in combat. Instead of maneuverable fire, Japan got clunky crews obsessed with single shots where they needed to mow down enemy ranks with long bursts. It was a game of precision in a slaughterhouse where only rate of fire and speed of relocation mattered. Japanese sniper machine gunners became heroes posthumously, never realizing that their optics were just an expensive toy on a rusty jalopy. But even if they had the best scopes in the world, another much more prosaic trap awaited them. A logistical nightmare where, in the heat of battle, you are delivered ammunition that simply won't fit in your barrel. In 1945, the American command was faced with a mountain of millions of Japanese rifles and pistols that were too dangerous to leave in the hands of fanatics and too useless to adopt. The solution was short and blunt. The Empire's arsenals began to be scuttled on barges directly into the ocean. Today, the seabed off the coast of Japan is a giant graveyard of rusty steel, where samurai honor is slowly turning into coral reefs. The scale of this historical purging is staggering. The Americans weren't just disarming an enemy, they were erasing the very memory of this technological chimera. Special units ensured that not a single functioning mechanism remained in captured warehouses. This was when the fashion for quote 25 Arisakas with ground-off chrysanthemums emerged. Soldiers were allowed to take them home only as useless junk stripped of the imperial seal. Those barrels that didn't go to the bottom often surfaced in the hands of insurgents across Asia, from the jungles of Vietnam to the hills of Korea. There, Japanese weapons lived out their days, continuing to maim new owners with the same old ailments: the accidental discharges of the Namboo and the jammed bolts of overheated machine guns. The drowned honor of Japan is not a metaphor, but millions of tons of iron resting in the depths. But even among this mountain of trash, rare specimens survived that collectors hunt for today. And now it's time to draw the final line under this story of rusty greatness and understand why spirit without technology is the shortest path to a mass grave. The weapons of Imperial Japan became the perfect mirror of its fate. Outwardly pompous, covered in sacred symbols, but utterly rotten inside and hopeless against progress. It was a grand bluff, costing millions of lives. While generals in Tokyo spoke of the invincible Yamato spirit, their soldiers died with pieces of jammed iron in their hands, becoming victims not only of the enemy, but of their own technical impotence. Japan's final collapse in 1945 proved a simple truth. In modern war, prayers do not replace engineering calculations, and the ritual purity of a bolt does not compensate for the absence of automatic fire. The attempt to cross medieval fanaticism with the industrial age gave birth to ugly mutants that looked menacing only at parades. Sniper machine guns, exploding rifles made of modeling clay steel, and self-firing pistols, all were merely the agony of a system that decided ideology was more important than physics. When the dust settled, the world saw not an army of great warriors, but crowds of deceived people thrown into the meat grinder of history with oars instead of weapons. Spirit without technology is not valor. It is simply a fast and very bloody path to a mass grave over which not even chrysanthemums will grow. The history of the Japanese arsenal is a lesson for anyone who puts ambition above reality. Today, these rusty artifacts gather dust in museums as a reminder of where blind faith in one's own exceptionalism leads.